All right. Thanks, Jason, Kat, for organising it, JPs, and thanks for everyone coming along. Thanks for turning the weather on too. It's not a bad view, actually. So hopefully just give you a bit of an update with Gateway and what's been happening and what our plans are going forward. As Jason mentioned, a lot of you shareholders, so if any questions afterwards, feel free to come up and let me know and hopefully I can answer them. So that's just the usual thing. So what is it about Gateway, that's we think so compelling? Well, we've got ownership of our Gidgee Gold project, which is north of Perth, but just north of about 70 k's north of Sandstone, in the middle of WA's goldfields there. We've got about 1,000 kilometres squared of tenure that we've tied up over pretty strategic sort of belt. And we're in the middle of a whole series of multi-million ounce deposits and operations that are still going. So from a number of different points of view, it's a pretty good place to be. The belt itself, the Gidgee belt, is, we call it a neglected greenstone belt. It's basically on the road between Mount Magnet and Leinster. A lot of people have been driving by it for the past 15 years. Operations at Gidgee next door, which is Horizon Gold's ground. That stopped in 2005 and no one's really been even thinking about this part of the world since then. So it has just sort of sat on the sidelines and it presents a pretty unique opportunity, particularly in the current environment, the current sort of focus on gold in WA. It's a great place to be looking for it. The stuff that we're looking for is pretty much shallow mineralisation. We're not chasing the stuff at depth just yet. There's about 5 old open pits that were mined back in the late 80s, early 90s on the project. We've been looking around them, the last sort of 18 months or so, and then really the last 6 months we've turned our focus to going, well, what does this mean in the bigger scale of things, and how can we really find the big one? And that's what we've been focused on. So around a couple of those existing open pits, around the 2 biggest old ones at Whistler and Montague Boulder, we've got about 240,000 ounces at 2.2 grams already in resources, and they're really just remnant resources around the old pits. So nothing really too extravagant there. I'm just trying to put some numbers around what's been left behind from the early 90s. But we really see the potential here it's a large-scale gold system. It's really significant area of WA, and we think that it's got all the right attributes. And we can show, and hopefully you'll see out of this presentation today, that there's a clear path there to make that not just incrementally bigger, but substantially bigger. One of the other things we've got going for us now, particularly over the last 6 months, our things have really changed in the junior gold sector, but we've got a strong balance sheet. Just under $9 million in cash now. We don't have any debt or any sort of fancy things hanging off the back. So what that enables us to do is really be pretty systematic about the way we're doing things. And you'll see from the last sort of release we put out yesterday and the work we're doing at the moment, we're not just in the business now of drilling a hole here and a hole there. We're really looking to explore this thing properly and drill a lot of holes into it. And as a lot of discoveries that I've been around, but if you look at De Grey now, the discoveries they've had up north, really what that's about is drilling holes. And once you're out drilling holes, you find things, and we're taking that approach to Gidgee. And importantly as well, we've got an experienced and successful management team. So we'll go through there. But Peter Langworthy, Jace talked about, got a strong track record, a number of different companies. Myself, have been lucky to be involved in a couple of good companies, a couple of good discoveries. So I think that goes a long way to helping maintain the focus of Gateway and where we're going. So just a quick corporate summary. We see there we've got about 1.9 billion shares. Gateway is actually a really old company. It was incorporated in about 1957, I think it was. It's been listed since the 70s. Number of different iterations over its life. Mainly it's always been an East Coast-based company. And in the mid-90s it got hold of this Gidgee project, but it sat there as the token West Australian project to put a couple of holes into when you need to do a capital raise. We can see there that about 8.3 million in the bank at the end of the last quarter. About 0.2, where we have 38 mil market cap. We're a little bit off that today. I think we're about 1.9 cents. So market cap around the 36 to 37 million there. Important thing with Gateway now, and it's really been a function of the last 18 months, 2 years, is there's been a bit of a changing of the guard at Gateway from a management point of view, but also from a major shareholder's point of view. So Kerry Harmanis there, you can see, is our major shareholder, just under 11% of the register. OmniGeoX and Crest, those two there, they're entities associated with Peter Langworthy, the MD, and Scott Brown, one of the other non-execs. So you can see there's a lot of stable shareholders in the top 5 there, but also the top 20 accounting for 40% of the register. These are all people that are on board with the strategy and they're comfortable with the strategy and they're there for the long term. So it's not an in and out type register. We have some friends there who really have bought into it and want to back us along. So the board, you can see there, we'll just go through quickly in a minute the backgrounds of everyone there. But what's the strategy for Gateway? So, really what we want to do is consolidate on the position we've got. We recognise that we've got a good land holding there in a part of WA that, as I mentioned before, has been almost forgotten about. There's a strong endowment there in terms of past production, not just on our ground, but the ground next door. And not a lot of work's been happening there for the last sort of 20 odd years. We've recently done a farm-in deal with Golden Mile Resources. We picked up a lot of that ground on the western side there, so this ground here. We managed to get a good earn-in deal there, but we've built that project over the last 18 months through a lot of sort of pegging of open grounds, doing a few deals here and there. It hasn't cost us a lot to really expand that land position to about 1,000 square k's. We really want to use the existing database that's there. There's been a bit of work, the old mines in the past, and some of the work that Gateway's done, particularly through the sort of late 90s, early 2000s. But no one's really had a look at this thing properly in the way that Pete and myself are used to really seriously look for good gold deposits. So there's a whole series of data sets there which we've been able to go back through, and particularly when we slowed things down for the whole COVID thing back in sort of April onwards, we took a lot of time to go back and really put this stuff together and try and understand the belt as a whole, and that's paying dividends now, and in some of the drill results getting now, which we'll go through in a bit. We've got resources there, so this is not all wavy greenfields type exploration. Well, we do have a bit of that and the conceptual stuff, but we have existing resources, about 240,000 ounces there below the old pits. There's a couple of other old pits that we haven't put numbers around yet. But what this just goes to show is there's, particularly in an elevated gold price environment, there's always a bit of a plan B or plan C, if you like, where these things are pretty shallow oxide pits and that gold is just sitting there right near surface. So it's not a big leap of faith to go and pull this stuff out of the ground. That's not our strategy at the moment. It's not what we're looking to do, but it's always there in case that becomes an irresistible sort of option. And we've done some drilling to look at the extensions of those existing deposits, but really, as we'll go through in a minute, what we're looking at is consolidating this and thinking about it as one complete picture, which no one's really done previously. And as part of that, we're trying to build a pipeline of targets. So not just there's 5 old pits, go and drill under the old pits and that's all sort of easy stuff. We're really trying to develop both those advanced prospects and where we can go and drill and really show immediately what's going on, but also looking at it from a bigger picture point of view and trying to think about the things that would make this into a really regionally significant gold system. So, and as I said before, we're doing that by systematic exploration. We're getting out there and drilling holes and taking samples and really testing the ground and giving it a crack. So the management team there, Trent Franklin, our chairman, based in Sydney. One of these guys that's got, he's actually a geo by trade, but spent most of his time in finance and corporate activities. But Pete Langworthy there, the MD, who's actually over in New South Wales at the moment, but he's been around a bit. Ex-WMC, one of the really important guys at Jubilee Mines, so that's where the association with Kerry Harmanis came. So he led the exploration team there. Obviously, one of the big sort of corporate success stories out of the nickel boom up to the 2007, 2008. Then went on to Talisman, one of the founding directors there. The founding director of Northern Star, but back when Northern Star really got going early on. And then also most recently, he was one of the team of guys that got Capricorn Metals up and going until the the takeover by the Mark Clark and Co recently, which has just exploded. So he's got a pretty strong track record there of doing real things and creating a lot of value for a lot of shareholders. Myself, as Jason mentioned, I was previously with Dore Minerals. We had a good run there in WA, not far from where we are at Gidgee, both finding and then financing and then building 2 operations until our takeover with Silver Lake last year. And then Debbie Fullerton, who's now the CEO of Westgold, she's on our board as a non-exec. Strong sort of accounting background and really provides a bit of a check to us technical guys. So the main part of our project at Gidgee is the Montague Dome. So this is a granodiorite intrusion. Can't quite see the colours there. Let's just go back, sorry. Granodiorite intrusion into a big shear zone. So from a geological point of view, this is a really sort of classic setting for gold mineralisation in WA. We've got about 9 kilometres of this intrusion into this shear zone, plus it goes for another 50 odd k's to the north. But really, the clearest analogue we got to what's going on here is at Tarmoola, so Red 5's King of the Hills deposit. That's really the closest thing. These 2 diagrams here, so this is King of the Hills as it sits at the moment, which obviously Red 5's doing a lot of work on. That's at the same scale as what we're talking about here. So you can see we've got overall a much bigger version of the same sort of system at King of the Hills. The other prospective area in WA that's an analogue is the original Granny Smith deposits that Goldfields are mining. So really what we're talking about is intrusion into this shear zone, and then around the margin you get a lot of gold forming in these sort of prospective structural zones. So you can see here with the existing drill database, and that does look like there's a bit of drilling there, but really, as I'll show in a minute, a lot of that's very, very shallow drilling done in the sort of early 90s, mid-90s, not really focused with the type of understanding that we've got now, what's going on. We can see the 5 old deposits there, so that's Whistler, Montague, Boulder, where between them they're 120,000 ounces each sitting under the pits. Then we got Caledonian, Rosie and Caledonian Northeast, which are the 5 pits that were mined back in the 90s, and we're sort of trying to put them into the context of the whole system now and look for something like, this is about 5 million ounces at Tarmoola, so we think it's got that sort of scale. But if we look at the next one, so we pull away everything that's greater than 50 metres depth, and bear in mind that fresh rock here starts at about 50, 60 metres, so we're not down a hell of a long way. Really, the majority of what's been done is around the old pits, and that's pretty much the story of this project. No one's really taken a look at it from a bigger picture point of view. So after we've come out of our little hiatus with COVID, and as I mentioned, we spent that time to go through a lot of the data that was there previously. We've now got a major exploration push on. So back in July, when we got back out in the field, we did a 4,500 metre RC program, and really for the first time what we were looking to do there is get away from the old deposits and start looking at the potential for a bigger picture. So we drilled a couple of different areas. So here what we called Whistler West, sort of north of the Caledonian pit on this controlling structure, north of Rosie in an area that we now call Achilles, which is a sort of a composite, if you like, of a series of different prospects that we actually now think are all interrelated, and we're looking at it from that bigger picture point of view. And then over here at Kashmir. So Kashmir, that's a brand new area on this overall dome. On the southeastern corner, so the mirror image to where all the mineralisation to date's been found, and from any geos in the room or the like that understand, from a structural point of view, that's what's happened here, theoretically happens down here. So no work has been done there previously, but one important thing to point out is that immediately south of our tenement boundary down here at Howard's, that's a 200,000 ounce deposit that's owned by Horizon Gold next door. That was discovered in the sort of early 2000s and is still in the ground now, so it hasn't been mined. But we're directly along strike at this thing called Kashmir. Big soil anomaly that we went and drill tested for the first time back in late July. We've just reported yesterday the results of a 15,000 metre air core program. So we kicked this off in early August. Unfortunately, the lab wait times at the moment in WA are pretty horrendous. We're sort of looking at sort of 6+ weeks turnaround on our samples, which is a common story, but it makes it a bit frustrating. But what we're looking at there is really this Achilles corridor south of the Rosie pit. So we'd done some RC drilling back in July, and a bit of work that was done late last year as well, which showed that mineralisation from Rosie carried north. We really wanted to see, well, what happens south, because it's the same structures going down, and we put those results out yesterday. But what we were able to show is there's a 1.5 kilometre, 1.4 kilometre long gold anomaly in the oxide zone that the air core drilling picked up that, you know, we can now go back and really test and have a look at. And the other thing that's underway at the moment, we've got a major RC program underway, which we kicked off back in mid-September. That's 11,000 metres, actually a bit more than that now. It's about 12,000 metres of RC drilling, which will be finished in the next few weeks, sort of second half of November. But we've been really off the back of that Whistler West work that we did in late July, which was positive. We then, this is actually one complete system. It's all between Whistler and Montague Boulder. We now refer to this thing as the Northwest Margin, trying to get away from the individual prospect names, but we've been out and we decided, well, let's drill it. So we did. So we basically drilled this thing on 100 metre space sections the whole way around that Northwest Margin, taking the view that, well, you know, if we don't drill these holes, you know, it's just going to be someone else in the future that does, because it's such an obvious target. So we had the resources, we got out there and did it. And we're only just, as I said, with the delay of the lab turnaround, we're only just starting to see those results starting to trickle through from holes that we drilled a couple of months ago, or, you know, 6 weeks ago. So over the next coming, you know, month and a half, we'll really start to see those results come through to the market, and hopefully they'll be really good. So the Northwest Margin, this is the work we did back in July. So that we basically decided to do one line of RC holes the whole way across that sort of northwest contact between Whistler and Montague Boulder. You can see there we hit some solid mineralisation. From a technical point of view, it was the same style of mineralisation that we see down here at Montague Boulder. The best being that 6 metres at 6. And it gave us a lot of confidence that really this whole margin, you know, is the same. So, as I said, we've kicked that off, and we're now testing it in a pretty systematic manner with about, you know, just over 100 drill holes out there the whole way along over about 1.6 kilometres. This is what it looks like in cross section. So the Whistler deposit sitting over here. There's about, you know, 120,000 ounces sitting under that pit. There's a few other things sitting off the side that haven't been estimated. We've picked up mineralisation within the granodiorite, which corresponds to what we see at Whistler. And then we've picked up this mineralisation off in the mafics to the west, which is the same as we see that Montague Boulder pit to the south. So, you know, all confirming our thoughts that, you know, this is actually all one related system, and just having the ability now to go and drill this systematically is really the opportunity that Gateway's got, where previous explorers really haven't had that chance. As part of that drilling, we also went back to the Montague Boulder resource area, and, you know, we had this idea that there was these high-grade shoots within the resource, which, you know, we weren't able to sort of model last time round. We did put that 120,000 ounces, and basically by doing those 2 holes into some key areas, we did hit, you know, 9 at 5 and 4 at 16. So, you know, for us that confirmed that theory that there's this control on the high-grade mineralisation there, which will enable us, you know, when we've finished all this drilling, to go back and re-estimate that resource and probably have a much better handle on these higher grades. You know, we're not talking about deep stuff here either. You know, that's 124 metres downhole. You know, so we're not talking multiple hundreds of metres below surface. This is still pretty relatively shallow stuff. And you can see some of the other high grades there in drilling that was done by Gateway sort of last year. You know, this Montague deposit, you know, it's got some good grade. Pretty simple geology too, which helps. You can see there, this is just in section what that looks like, but basically you can see that the orientation of this structure is, it's the same shear zone that we see 1.1 k's away at that previous prospect we drilled. So this is why we have this confidence in the system as we're finding it. So this second priority, which is the Achilles corridor, and I mentioned that before. So the old Rosie pit that sits here, Caledonian and Caledonian Northeast. We now look at this as one complete area, if you like. So Gateway done some drilling north of the pit early 2019, which pretty much looked for, it's just straight up drilling along strike. You know, we're not talking about rocket science here. We just stepped out along strike of the pit. That stuff hadn't been done. And, you know, hitting mineralisation, you know, that's 13 metres at 3 from 5 metres below surface. So we're not, again, talking about deep remnants around the old pits. You know, it's near surface that come riding up to below the transported cover. So that was great. We drilled out about 400 metres north of the pit. And then in July we decided, well, let's test, you know, just whether this thing's continuing the whole way up. So we put 2 drill sections, 150 metres further, another 150 metres, so you know, 300 metres step off, and then there's another few hundred metres up to the north. And again, hit the same style of mineralisation, same sort of widths of mineralisation. You know, starting, you know, that one's 14 metres at a gram from 3 metres below surface. So we're, again, just finding this near surface. This is all oxide zone mineralisation, so it's all soft rocks and easily dealt with from a mining and extraction point of view. And one thing that this did show us, and it's important in the context of the whole project, is that there was some historical RAB drilling there done in the late 90s, which we always suspected was not really showing very well what was in the ground. This really shallow drilling and this RC work that we did showed mineralisation where previous explorers thought there wasn't. So it gave us the confidence that, yep, you know, we should pursue this strategy over this pretty prospective area. And we'll look to follow that up next year, drill some more out there. Our priority at the moment is the northwest corridor, but this is number 2. So this is the results we released yesterday, again from drilling we'd done a few months ago. So, excuse me, prior to us raising all the money that enabled us to go do this big RC program. But what we decided to do prior to being able to do that is to go south of the Rosie pit and test this system further to the south with a pretty comprehensive air core drilling program. So shallow drilling, testing the oxide zone, but really looking for the potential at depth below the oxide zone. And like I said, we're really looking at this from a big system point of view now, not just trying to find another little pit. And you know, we're pretty encouraged by what we found. We were able to delineate this big anomaly here, which is a continuation from the Rosie pit. That's over 1.4 kilometres. Not only that, there were some other trends. So this dandelion trend here, that corresponds to, dandelion trend there corresponds to a series of old workings that haven't really been tested previously. This trend here is immediately south of the Caledonian open pit, and that, you know, some nice strong results in there. And we picked up this new zone out to the east, which, to be honest, we don't quite have a handle on exactly yet, but that's within the granodiorite, and you know, there's some nice shallow intersections out there. But this 1.4 kilometre trend with Achilles, which is still open off the south end, and we'll keep following that up later. You know, we're getting good dispersion. This is a cross section through this LA International area. Good dispersion in the drilling. You know, we hit up to 3 metres at 5.6 grams. Which is at a bottom of hole, which is, you know, showing us that there's good solid mineralisation in the bedrock itself. This is not all oxide zone dispersion. But we had multiple, you know, I've sort of trimmed it down for this presentation, but multiple plus 1 gram per tonne intersections in this oxide zone. So it gave us the confidence that, yeah, there's something, you know, significant there. Not only that, from a technical point of view, this change in direction here around that LA International area, which there's some little old workings there from historic mining, you know, that's a great spot from a structural geology point of view to be looking for gold mineralisation. So it has some attributes. It's ticking the boxes. We're really excited by it. What it's helping us do is to really bring the second priority target along, so that, you know, as we're testing, we're not putting all our eggs in one basket up on the northwest contact. We are also developing this prospect down here, which is just as big and potentially just as significant. But it means that for the long term, we've got lots of places to go and drill and hopefully find gold. And what it enabled us to do is there was some historic drilling by Gateway from early 2000s at this thing called Airport. Just a little shallow series of holes were put in there, but there's some pretty sensational drill holes there. from not very deep, 20, 25 metres below surface, 20 metres at 16 grams is pretty significant in anyone's language. So helped us put it all into context, because previously it was just sitting out there on its own, but now we can see how it fits in with this overall Achilles trend, and we'll be able to follow that up properly now going forward. So priority 3, this Kashmir area I mentioned before, down on the southeast margin of the Montague Dome. So we've got the Howards deposit down here, 200,000 ounces coming to surface. It's still sitting there from Horizon Gold's point of view. Directly along strike, Gateway done some soil sampling back in 2018 and showed there's this big 1.8 kilometre long anomaly sitting right there, hard up against the tenement boundary, as luck would have it. But pretty straightforward geological target. But no drilling had been done. We went and put two fences of RC holes across there. They're 1 kilometre apart. So that's about 2 k's a strike. And there's a couple of little old workings up there at Yale Lock, which is another 2 kilometres. So we're talking about 4 kilometres of a strike there. And this is only the first serious drilling attempt at this margin. You can see there we hit 2 metres at 8 from 3 metres below surface. Metre at 9 from 59 metres. It's on 2 different intersections, so they're 1 kilometre apart. So there's a lot of WA between these intersections. And we also hit some mineralisation in the granodiorite too, which again is reflecting what we see up to the northwest, on the northwest margin. So this has given us a lot of confidence that we can go and explore down this other side, this mirror image if you like. There's gold there still. This is primary mineralisation. This is not some sort of oxide dispersion. So it's pointing to a real structure hosting mineralisation down there. So while this is a little bit further down the priority list for us at the moment, because we've got, frankly, more advanced targets to go to, this is again showing that, we're not restricted to one particular area. We've got a lot of things to go and test and a lot of potential to find mineralisation in a pretty prospective area. So we'll get back out there next year as well and do a bit more work and try to progress this prospect. You can see there that's a whole 8 kilometres of strike of that eastern contact, which hasn't been looked at previously. Again, we're just also looking to build the project, so this is the next scale out from a regional point of view. It's a pretty significant area to be in. We've got a good footprint. Horizon Gold, as I mentioned, is with their Gidgee projects right in the middle of our 2 main tenement packages. We've got tied up pretty much the most of one major structure, which is plus 1 million ounce endowment to date. In the middle there, the Gidgee structure, which Horizon Gold has got, that's about 2 million ounces to date. And then we've just done this deal to pick up this third structure further west, which really hasn't been explored in the past, but we see it as a complete analogue to what's gone on further to the east. So, we've got multiple sort of stages of prospectivity to test, and we're a pretty serious landholder in the region. So, with Horizon there, but also the stuff going down to the south with Alto and Middle Islands, from a corporate point of view, we're right in amongst the thick of it. It's everyone talks about consolidation and the like. It is an area that's crying out for it. We're sitting right between Mount Magnet, Leinster, Walloona, Meekatharra. We're sort of smack bang in the middle of it all. So, from that point of view as well, we've established ourselves and we're well positioned. So what's the takeaways from this today? Really we're WA Gold focused. We've now, Gateway, as I mentioned in the past, used to be East Coast focused, had a number of different projects all over the place. We've now consolidated into one project, significant project, but we're really focused on it. It's got gold mineralisation already there and potential for a lot more. It's been neglected in the past, and we've got an opportunity now to go and follow up on pretty shallow stuff, as well as at depth as well. But there's easy low-hanging fruit. We've got some resources already under some of the old pits, which are just remnants, but there's clear room to grow them. We're well funded, got a strong balance sheet. We can go and do the type of exploration that we think this project requires. We're just about finished a major drilling push at the end of this year, and we'll get back into it in sort of end of the first quarter next year. And we've got an experienced and successful team leading the company now, which knows how to find things, knows how to develop them and monetise these deposits. So that's Gateway in a nutshell. Thanks for having a listen, and